There's no sound.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. Boker Tov. Good morning, everyone. I don't know what, whatever. I'll leave it to that. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Boker Tov. So last week we began our discussion about Rav Herzog. I mean, it's very relevant because his grandson is trying to create some kind of reconciliation or compromise or whatever you want to call it. I guess surrender. So I guess wherever you are on the spectrum of political spectrum, you will have a different definition. And that's not the only thing that we are missing, but we are definitely missing them. So the idea is that we spoke about also a little bit of the history of the tshuva. Rav Herzog wrote his Tchuka L'Israel, the book, regarding almost a constitution for Israel. He understood that he will not find a constitution in the Torah, and to show how the Torah can be applicable to the establishment of the state of Israel, the majority of the people in Israel would just basically would say not only that the Torah cannot really give or provide us tools to deal with Israel, modern Israel, but also the Torah is totally not relevant. And basically what he created, he said that Eretz Israel that was given to us is somewhat of a partnership between the Jews and the United Nations. And therefore, it's not Malchut David. It's not David dynasty and not Shlomo. And therefore, in areas where there is a contradiction between halacha and international law, halacha does not apply. That's basically what he said. Now, I just want to clarify one thing, is that we obviously try to find solutions in halacha, but sometimes you just can't. I mean, there is a Rambam, as we saw before, you just can't change. So what do you say? Because there is a partnership, so the halacha does not apply on those areas, let's call them the gray areas. However, I need to say that it seems to be that according to Rav Herzog, when time change and circumstances are such as that you can apply Torah law, you should. So that's something very interesting. And we shouldn't say that's much oy vey. You know, Phil, I was thinking a little bit, and I will just take 2 minutes. You know, in order to criticize the other side and whatever the other side is, because, you know, we are always right and we are in the center and we are all good. But in order to really fully understand the other side, you need to be very honest with yourself and to put emotions and all kinds of things aside. One of the things that you have with the far right, and now I'm talking about far right politically and also religiously. There are two main things that you need to understand where they are coming from. Again, not to agree, but to understand where they are coming from. Now, after you understand where they are coming from, you might agree. Some of the far right in the political arena, like the right wingers politically, they basically say, look, for 75 years, we tried to do what? Not to annex the territories, not to build in the, so to speak, settlements or Yehuda v'Shomron, not to do anything, not to go to Rabbi, in order to what? To appease everyone. So no one will be upset with us, and we'll have the international aid. And you know, we're only starting, and it's like it's a startup nation. Let's start. Let's see. Let's not get everyone too excited. We already in 2006, we by ourselves, we left Gaza. And we tried something, right? We started the Oslo Accord, 1991. And in order to try to create something. Now we are in 2023. Are we better or worse? Do we have more right on the land or less? So they claim, it's about time to be what they will call a proud Jew. We do what's good for us. We do what we think is the Jewish way to do it. And the Goyim, they will speak even if we don't do anything, and even if we do something. You know, you built one tzrif on a bikta, you know, the United Nations is going to condemn us. So you know what? Let them condemn us on building a city. Who cares? That's where some of them are coming from. Again, you can agree, you can disagree, you can say there is going to escalate to all different things, but that's part of their motivation. Now, the right-wingers religiously, some of them say, look, for all those years, we were the minority. and they dismissed us, and they didn't care about us. And you know what? And look, Baruch Hashem, we are growing, our families are growing, and you look some of the ganim, for example, for the Haredi society, it's like in a basement in somewhere there. It's terrible, it's about to fall. And it's about time that we will exercise our political power. And our political power can secure, guarantee our lifestyle. It's not your lifestyle. I know you don't like it, but we live here, and that's our lifestyle. Now, again, you don't need to agree or disagree, but you need to hear what they say. Then you have the left wing. And by the way, anyone who thinks that the judicial reform is the problem, I'm sorry, but you need to rethink. The judicial reform is not the problem, it's the symptom. The symptom is for a real issue, which is what's the identity of the state of Israel 75 years after it was established. That's basically what's going on here. Many of the center left, they feel this country that they gave their lives, their children's life, are being taken away from them. That's the issue. And now when they understand, many of them understand that there is no way probably for a government that it's center left. Demographically, it's almost impossible unless the Haredim go with them, like what they did, in time of Rabbi Zichrono Livracha. There is no scenario. Numbers. I'm not talking about prophecy here. Numbers that they can have a government. The only last government that they could call center to the left is when Bennett was prime minister. Now, Bennett is not center and is not left. He calls himself Yemani, okay? But they view that government as probably their last government to be a prime minister. So the only way that can protect their idea about Zionism is what? Is the Supreme Court. Because think about it. If I have a right-wing government and they create a chok, how can I fight it? The only way is the Supreme Court. And now if the Supreme Court is going to be controlled by the government, they have nothing. This is, in my opinion, the root cause. That's why the Supreme Court, even some of them, they do believe that what the Supreme Court did, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. They took too much power, even according to some of them. But they understand that the only way that they can protect this Israel that they want is only by the Supreme Court. So these are the issues. Those are really the issues that we need to discuss, not in the shiur, but when you think about it, it's not, the judicial reform is just a symptom. And yes, it's been driven by personal agenda and personal things. Leave all that alone. The issue is how Israel is going to look alike in 75 years from now. You know what? It's not even 75 years, it's 10 years from now. So with that in mind, you understand that there is a lot at stake. Now, you can criticize the left, the right, the center, whatever it is. This is not the issue of the shiur. I just wanted to clarify what I think it's really the problem. And that really brings me back to what? To your comment, oy vey. The oy vey is because some of the ways that the Torah is being presented to the state of Israel is terrible. Terrible. If I think that Pesach is about searching my bags when I go into a hospital to see if I brought a little lachmaniya with me or I didn't bring lachmaniya with me, this is a problem. Okay, this is a problem if that's what you push. So the idea is that the Torah does have many solutions to some of the contradictions or the issues that we have, not for all. And then you might go back to Rav Herzog. So the idea is that Rav Herzog, not President Herzog, not compromise, but theory or thesis regarding the pre-state and post-state is something that can definitely be a basis for what? For discussion of how you apply Torah to different areas of the modern state of Israel. So that was Rav Herzog. Now I want to look on page 4, Rav Israeli. So Rav Israeli, who obviously I think we all heard about him at least. He also, Rav Israeli. Oh, so Rav Israeli, okay, thank you. So Rav Israeli was one of the founders of Eretz Chemda. Eretz Chemda, you heard about Eretz Chemda. Okay, Rav Israeli was the halachic authority of Eretz Chemda. He passed away, obviously. He was a Dayan Rashi bebeit Adin. He was one of the leading Zionist rabbis and great posek. And one of his expertise was halacha and state. And he called the book Torah v'Medina, Torah and state. Basically, he put a book, very not similar in terms of the content, but very similar in terms of the idea of how do I bring together what? Halacha, Torah, and the modern state of Israel. By the way, another, we'll call it like a side product of this is Machon Tzomet. The Tzomet Institute also tried to do what? To combine, to show how you can live a modern life with technology. All those issues basically emanate from these ideas of how we, especially religious Zionist people, understand that we can be committed to halacha, but at the same time, to embrace and to encourage modern state of Israel. Okay, so now, Rav Israeli, who wrote the Torah v'Medina, and so he was Dayan bebet HaRabani HaGadol, he was Rosh Yeshiva of Merkaz, so obviously the leading rabbi of the Tzionut HaDatit in the, I guess it was more in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
I had the pleasure of meeting him.
Did he have the pleasure to meet you?
I have just one comment.
Yes.
In all this discussion, you haven't discussed the threat of ignorance of a whole category of Israeli kids who will not learn how to make a living.
Hey, as I said, it's not the topic for my shiur. I'm not talking about the Haredi world now. I had to bring it in order to clarify the issues on the day. I'm not dealing with the issues. Yeah, not dealing with the issues. So don't forget, the title of the show is what? What should be our approach to minorities in Israel? Not minorities among the Jewish people, talking about minorities outside of the Jewish people, which means Christians and Muslims. So Rav Israeli says the following. He wrote an interesting article by the name Ma'amad HaNuchri B'Medina Israelit Le'or HaTorah. Now, why am I reading to you the title? You can learn a lot from the title of an article or a book. First, he called it Nuchri. What is Nuchri? Nuchri can be a stranger, a non-Jew, Muslim, Christian, Hindu. So he does not go into the Muslimi part. And you will see after 67, Rav Aviner talks about only Muslimin. Interesting. So first Nuchri. B, from a posek, someone like a Dayan, the Beit Adin HaRabani HaGadol, Rosh Yeshiva, I would expect him to write a title that will say what? Ma'amad HaNuchri Le'or Halacha. There's a difference. What's the difference? Halacha is dry. There is a Rambam, there is a Rif, there is Gemara, boom, boom, boom. When I say Le'or Torah, what do I mean by that? The spirit of the Torah, the Torah which is all-encompassing, which also includes some non-halachic consideration, which I will call the meta-halachic considerations. And why am I telling you that? Because if you switch to page 5, okay, just for a second, and then you go back to page 4, Rav Elisha Aviner, not Rav Aviner, there are a few brothers, okay, Rav Elisha Aviner, he wrote an article in Tchumin, and the title is what? Ma'amad HaYishmaelim, the status of what? Of the Ishmaelites. Who are the Ishmaelites? The Muslims. B'Medinat Israel, lefi halacha, not le'or, not in light of, according to what? To the halacha. Rav Israeli didn't do that. Rav Israeli says, Ma'amad HaNuchri, it's more vague than vague, okay? It's in the light of the Torah, what do we think about the status of the Nuchri? And we will see what caused the change also in the severity, I would say, or the harshness of the lessons or the messages that each posek tried to give. So Rav Israeli says the following. Uvda, page 4. Uvda היא שיש במדינה מיעוט לא מבוטל שלא יהודים. So this is a fact. We have in the state of Israel, he's now talking about in the 50s. He says, there is a group of people here who are not Jews. Welcome to reality, okay? We don't live only among Jews, even in Eretz Israel, we have a group that are not Jewish. ומניעת הזכות מהללו לבחור ולהיבחר, לא תשפיע לטובה על יחסם למדינה. And it says, preventing them from being elected or to elect will influence their attitude towards the state of Israel. כן עלינו לזכור את קיומם של היהודים בתור מיעוט בכל ארצות תבל. ושם אנחנו נאבקים כנגד כל אפליה ושלילת זכותם האזרחית באיזה תצורה שהיא. And it says, and also don't forget, what's the halachic question? If you remember, the Rambam that we mentioned last week said what? You can't elect them to be in any public position. You cannot appoint them even to be what? Street cleaners. They cannot be appointed to be the manager of the irrigation system in the little gun Saker in Yerushalayim. So we all, including Moshe Leon, our Rosh Ha'ir, all violate what? The Rambam, including the chief rabbis of Yerushalayim, and including me, and including you, everyone here, right? So we have a problem. Says Rav Israeli, no, we don't have a problem. Why? Because you need to look also about meta-halachic issues. If you're not going to give them the right to elect and to be elected, it will influence their perception on the state of Israel. That's A. B. Don't forget, we have Jews in diaspora. And just imagine that in New York City, okay, the mayor of New York City or the governor of New York City was saying, no, Jews could not go to the, cannot vote. What are we going to do? No, my yepo, right? So we are fighting for equal rights to minority Jews in every country. We cannot go against what we ask for ourselves against others. Continue. ואכן, צריכים אנו לציין שברוב רובן של המדינות מוכרות הזכויות האזרחיות של כל תושביהן לבחור ולהיבחר. And he says, and also I need to mention that in most countries, most normal countries, they will not prevent people from all colors, all groups, all minorities to what? To vote. So therefore, יישלל לפות תוקפה המוסרי של התביעה והעמידה על שוויון זכויות מלא של היהודים בכל ארצות פזוריהם, אם כאן בארץ לא תוכר זכותם של המיעוטים בתור אזרחי המדינה. He says, how dare we come with a moral claim, let's say to England, to France, to Germany, to tell them that they need to give the right to vote to Jews as minorities, if we don't do it in Medinat Israel. Is that halacha? Are all these explanations or claims, are they, would you consider them as halachic considerations? No, this is what? Practical, moral, ethical. You know, it's not nice, it's not fair, it's not whatever, but it's not halachic, what we will say halacha, like facing the Rambam. So strategic, you want to say, okay, you want to call it internationally, to consider international status of the state of Israel, our claim, moral claim, whatever it is. I'll take you in just a second. I just want to finish up a few sentences here. And then he says, מאידך, אסור לנו להתעלם מדעת תורה והלכותיה, שעל פיהם אנו חייבים לכונן את אורחות חיינו. But with all the respect to everything I said before, the Rambam said, no. The Rambam said we can't. It's not allowed. So he says, ועלינו לחפש מסגרת הלכתית נאותה לפתרון הבעיה מבחינה עקרונית. Says, so you know what? We need to find a solution in halacha, to find a way to resolve this fundamental issue. So,
Excuse me, but if at the end of the day, you got through all the halakha and you still say, but the moral issue, that's a halachic decision.
okay. What do I mean, okay? Because then you open up a Pandora box. Because almost in every halachic matter, you can always come and say, you know, if you will go that route, it will cause chilul Hashem. If you will go that route, it will cause busha. If you will go that route, you will cause suffering to A and B and C. Then halacha will be what? Will be subjugated to what? To moral and ethical views of humans.
But if that's the derech you pick as a rav in Paskining, then that is the halachic.
Yes and no, but it's not going to be so definite. It's just imagine, okay? I will give a psak that says that you are not allowed to watch TV on Shabbat, and you shouldn't put your TV on from Friday until Motzei Shabbat. Okay, that's what I'm telling you. Just a case. You will tell me no time or nothing. I'm telling you can't. Okay, you tell me that it will really influence you and your entire family, and it might be that you will not keep Shabbat anymore if I will not allow you to do it. Okay, So based on what you are saying, basically.
No, but if you as the Rav turn around and give credence to that argument, then you have then included in the halakhic structure that argument. But if you say no, then the halakhic stays the way it is. All I'm saying is that this is not original. I heard this from a colleague of yours that said at the end of the day, if you come to that conclusion that halakha is here, but you have made a halakhic decision for that instant.
That's why I said to you, okay-ish, which means sometimes yes, sometimes no. You need to be very careful, because the problem is that when you start bringing what I will call modern moral values, you open up a Pandora box. I'm not saying that we don't do it, but you need to be very careful using it. Yes.
I think that it's sort of the Solomon mentioned that we help the non-Jews that they got a shalom, and there's a whole big Pandora's box. What exactly is that?
Okay, very good. So that might be, that's what I said, the okay-ish. It depends so much on different circumstances. Sometimes Darkei Shalom, always when we look at that Darkei Shalom, Eva, is that part of the halachic consideration? Is that integral part of my halachic decision, or it's extra? Which means when I don't need it, I don't do it. Which, by the way, reflect morally very poorly. What do I mean? If the halacha is that you don't do aid to a non-Jew, and you just do it only because of what? Of animosity. It means what? If that special circumstances of animosity do not apply, I shouldn't help this non-Jew. What about Tzelem Elokim Shebo?
Conditional.
So this is where the problem is. Now, again, this is not the topic of my shiur. So I'm going to ignore all of you. I'm sorry. I know it might be another topic for a different shiur of how do we create halacha and the evolution of halacha and how you decide about halacha, but that's not going to be the semester. Sorry. So we're going to ignore all those questions, even though they are very important and they are maybe even essential to understanding halacha, but it's not our topic. So we go back to Rav Israeli. So Rav Israeli says like that, אם אין יד ישראל תקיפה, היינו, שאומנם יכולים להוציא איזה מעכו, אבל אין בכוחם להוציא כולם, גם אז אין מצווה זו קיימת גם כלפי אלה שיכולים להוציאם, כיוון שישארו עוד מעכום לגור בארץ מבלי אפשרות להוציאם. So basically, Rav Israeli says, look, I don't know even how I'm saying that because I'm recorded, but okay, I'm quoting Rav Israeli. Rav Israeli basically says the following. He says, look, the Rambam himself says that when Yad Israel lo tkifa, when we don't really have the power, so many of his halachot should be reduced to what? To potential, not in a practicality. Don't really implement them. Therefore, he says, look at our situation. Even if we go on a crusade, Jews going on a crusade, okay? Okay, if we go on a crusade and we try to drive out anyone who is not Jewish, we will not be able to do it, right? And even if we will be able to do some of it, there are going to still be a group of minorities here. Therefore, it's considered as what? As a situation that we don't really have the power. And because we don't really have the power, so you need to give them some kind of equal rights. So the Rambam's halacha does not apply because of what the Rambam says. Now, even though he is using the Rambam in order to explain the Rambam, there is one problem, which is it's his assessment to our reality to say that Yad Israel lo tkifa. You're with me? Yad Israel lo tkifa, meaning we don't have the power. If we have the power or we don't have the power, with all due respect to Rav Israeli, this is not an assessment that the rabbi should do. This is an assessment that who needs to do? The generals in the army and the prime minister, with all due respect to any rabbi, okay? And so the idea is, and look what he does. He's seeking a true halachic reason, but he himself understands that this halachic reason is only based on an assessment that he has that Yad Israel lo tkifa. And now I want to ask you a question. So in a time that Yad Israel tkifa, according to Rav Israeli, we have the power, okay? Should we drive them out?
We need Shabbos going, and we need someone.
Oh, okay. If we don't want to be, to have any cynicism here, basically, take a look at what Rav Israeli says. This is a problem to some extent. And also, and that relates to what I said before, sometimes the right wing, politically, will say, we have the power, try it. We tried not to, now let's try it. we have the power. So this is now become subjective, very similar to what? To moral values and ethical values. It might be very subjective. What seems to be moral in your eyes, not necessarily sounds moral to me. So basically what we have, according to Rav Israeli, he didn't like so much the idea of, look, if we're not going to give them rights, how can we ask for rights for Jews in diaspora? He says, I need to find something halachic. So he brings the Rambam. Wonderful. But the problem is, he can use the Rambam only based on his subjective assessment. So now let's just finish up Rav Israeli. ומעתה נראה, פשוט, כשם שאם יש עסק משותף ליהודים ונוכרים, אפשר לסדר חלוקת התפקידים ביניהם, באופן שהנוכרי יטפל בניהול העסק, ובתור שכזה ייתן הוראות ויקבע לכל אחד את סדר פעולתו, will translate in a minute, ולא נראה בזה משום עניין שררה. כמו כן, בשותפות הגדולה יותר של ניהול עיר ומדינה, אין משתנה התוכן היסודי של זכות הנבחרים שאינם מקבלים שכרה, ואינם אלא שליחי ציבור המצווים ופועלים לטובתו, בתור שכאלה נמסרו להם זכויות מיוחדות, מכל מקום אין בגדר זכויות אלה משום שררה, אלא כל פעולתם בתור שליחים שאין שום איסור למנותם כשליחים גם את הנוכרים. Basically, says Rabbi Israeli, he also, in a way, accepts the idea of partnership, and he says, if you have a company run by a Jew and a non-Jew, can the non-Jew be a CEO? Obviously, co-CEOs, not a problem. Can he give commandments and appoint others? Sure. The state of Israel is almost like a partnership. Therefore, we are being elected. When we are being elected, I'll tell it to the politicians, we are not running the country. We work for the people. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we work for the people. Therefore, we are not appointed. We are basically appointed for a short time, and we were elected to it, and we serve the people, and then we people can get rid of us. Therefore, says Rabbi Israel, there is no problem to appoint non-Jews for public positions because of what? It's partnership, and it's not that we are appointing them for srara. There is no srara, which means ministry or power or authority. It just it's what? Right. They don't exactly. They don't have the authority over us. They don't govern us. They basically they are there to do a job, and for that you are allowed to do. So take a look at what Rabbi Israeli did. First and foremost, it's very interesting. He started with what? With the moral reason. It's impossible for us to demand equal rights for Jews in diaspora if we don't give equal rights to minorities here. That's it. But then he says it's not enough. I need to find halacha. So he finds in the Rambam that if we define the situation that we live in now in the 50s as Yad Israel Lo Tkifa, which we don't have the power, so therefore everything that the Rambam said before does not apply. So we don't have a problem. What about appointing them? No need to appoint them. If they are elected, but how can we appoint them? Answer, we can appoint them because it's almost basically, it's a partnership. It's a business. And we have a business that we have a non-Jewish partner. And with this non-Jewish partner, he can give commandments, he can give the authority, he can get some authority because that authority does not really have the domain over us. It's just what? It's a job that he needs to do. Okay, so that's what Rabbi Israeli says. Now, everything I told you now, it's until 1964. In 1964, I think 1964, 1966, but I think it's 1964. Until 1964, there was a mishtar tzva'i, which means, what is mishtar tzva'i? A military government. After the 64, I think after 64, you can Google it, I think it's 64, 66, but I think it's 64. Basically, what they did, they end up the mishtar tzva'i.
Military government of the Arab population.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the clarification. Over the Arab population. After 64, it was released, and there was just a regular government. There's no mishtar tzva'i. A. B. The Arabs here start also, their demographic obviously changed, and their numbers increased. And then, obviously, after 67, after the 6-Day War, Israel received another 1-point-something million Palestinians in Judah, Samaria, and Gaza. Now, I'm going to say things that you might not like, but those are facts. So facts are facts. The 1.5 or whatever it is million Palestinians in Judah, Samaria, and Gaza don't have a right to vote. At least not for us. Okay? I don't think if they have a right to vote for the PLO either, but but they don't have a right to vote. They go through checkpoints, in order to enter here. They need to get a special permission to walk here. And we basically govern their lives. So they are basically get the rights of citizens. We take care of their utilities. Even in Gaza, by the way, we still take care partially to their utilities. We need to continue to develop the infrastructure, even though some of them are definitely lagging behind any other Israeli city. And basically, they are still considered as minority, and we treat them as what? No. We treat them not with equal rights like we treat other citizens. Are there reasons for that? Might be. Are there is justification to it? It depends where you are on the political map. But those are the facts. I didn't say now anything that are not facts or nothing, it's emotional or my political views. That's it. Those are the facts. Now, add to it that especially after the 6-Day War, and it became even more after the 73, after the Yom Kippur War, many of the Arabs developed a national claim to the land of Israel, to the state of Israel, which was maybe more in hiding before 67, but after that, it became basically almost their national flag. They want a state, they want territory. Some of them want us to be out of here, and some of them would not care if we will somehow share the territory that was given to all of us. Those are facts. Now, the problem with the last fact is that caused two things. After the 6-Day War, religious Zionism, that was always, because look, I brought you Rav Herzog and Rav Israeli, the two leading religious Zionist poskim and Rashi Yeshivot. And they spoke about the Arabs, and they never mentioned any of their national claims to the state of Israel. And also, don't forget, we didn't control an additional 1 whatever million Palestinians in Judah and Samaria and Gaza because we didn't have it. No, but the Sefer that he wrote was in this article was in the 50s.
What did he say?
Didn't look too much. I think he didn't change his mind too much. But I'm not sure, so I don't know. So you know what? I know one thing, that he didn't go back from what he said because Rav Aviner asked him. And now after the 6-Day War, things change. I mean, I would hate to say that, but you remember it. I don't. But things change, and things change immensely among the religious Zionist movement. I don't want to call it messianic, but I definitely want to call it seeing an incredible opportunity of going back to the land that the Tanakh talks about. And when the government is hesitating about allowing you to go and to build whatever, because the government sees all the territories as what? As klaf mikuach, which means what? Just a negotiation card in order to get peace. And you think that those territories are more important than Tel Aviv and Haifa. What exactly occurs? What happens is that there is a rift and tension and sometimes even animosity between what? Between the religious Zionist movement and institutions and followers towards the government and the Zionistic dream. That's where religious Zionism changed. There was so much frustration and disappointment from the government that does not seize the opportunity to go back to Eretz Israel. Not Medinat Israel, Eretz Israel. And we need to understand, we must understand history. There is no way, you cannot understand this halakha if you don't understand the history. Yes?
I learned in Merkaz Harav in 1963-64, before the 6-Day War. Okay? And there, obviously, it's Yehuda was there, but his Torah, which is really what is leading religious Zionists today, was not prevalent. We learned Riyah's Torah, which was having peace with non-religious Jews. There's no discussion of the land. That's the point I'm making. After religious Zionism changed, especially after the 73 war, to focus on land. And in fact, those of us who who lived through that period, there were always these discussions. I'm sure many of you remember that you can give the land back because it's pikuach nefesh. Now you can't even raise it. And these were serious rabbanim.
Very good. What you said is so important. I hate to say that is not the topic of the shiur, but I'll take what is the topic of the shiur. Rav Tzvi Yehuda, someone just made a PhD on his ma'amarim. I forgot. I think it's a rabbi from Har Choma or something like that. And I just saw it lately. And he wants to claim that Rav Tzvi Yehuda didn't write and didn't act like his students are quoting him, which, by the way, is definitely true. We know what was going on there when there was some kind of, after Rav Tzvi Yehuda passed away, the split within Merkaz Harav and Yeshivat, other Yeshivot. So it basically, they took the focus on the land and ignored, to some extent, Am Yisrael. And because we believe in Am Yisrael, we have also a trinity, okay? Am Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, and Torat Yisrael, okay? And the question is obviously always, they are not all can go together all the time. Sometimes you need to give from Eretz Yisrael in order to keep Am Yisrael. Sometimes you need to give some part of Torat Yisrael in order to keep Eretz Yisrael and Am Yisrael. And what is the most important from this triangle? What is the peak? And that's a major question. So the idea is basically what? Is that after the 6-Day War, again, there is this spirit of a messianic, I will call it spirit, and total frustration from the government. And basically what's going on here is, and also the Muslims, so the Arabs, are becoming more and more nationalist, and there is more terror, and there is more other things, basically caused the religious Zionist rabbis to have a totally different perspective on what? On the relationship between us as majority versus minorities. So for example, take Rav Aviner. Rav Aviner, he learned by Rav Israel in Rav Shapira. And I'm going to read page 5, but look at the end where it says, you see it's bold, Rav Elisha Aviner bitguva al Agrash Israeli. You see that it's like here, page 5. I will start, I'm not starting from the beginning. I just want you to see Rav Aviner went to Rav Israeli, who was his rabbi, and he asked him about what he wrote years ago about the relationship between majority and minority. He says, שאלתי אותו על אחד מפרקי ספרו, עמוד הימני, הדן במעמדם של הנוכרים במדינת ישראל. נושא הדיון הוא האם מותר למנות נוכל לתפקיד ציבורי. So he asked him about exactly what I quoted for you, which is what? That Rav Israeli says that you are allowed to appoint someone who is not Jewish, even though the Rambam says no. Why? Because it's partnership and whatever. So he says, שאלתי את הגרש, מדוע אין הגבלה על מינוי נוכרים לתפקיד ציבורי, מצד החובה להטיל מס ועבדות. This is incredible, where he's coming from. Rav Elisha Aviner come to Rav Israeli, and he says to him, Rav Israeli, Rabbi, how are you? You doing okay? I have a Rambam. The Rambam says that if we have the power, we need to what? We need to basically put taxation. And how am I going to say it? Maybe I should stop the recording. I don't know. I'm quoting the Rambam.
Yeah.
Enslavement to minorities in Israel, to those who are not Jewish. And you, Rav Israeli, my Rabbi, you say that what? That you can even appoint them to what? For public positions. You are contradicting the Rambam. And with all due respect, Rabbi, you need to explain yourself. So he says, לאחר משא ומתן, after some kind of conversation and negotiation between them, הלכתי קצר, דחה הגרש ישראלי את דבריי על הסף. So he told me, I don't know if he told him, he just did him. והוסיף שאין לקבלה, מפני שלפי דבריי כולנו חוטאים ואיננו נוהגים כשורה בכך, שאנו מאשרים את נוכחותם של נוכרים בבית מחוקקים. Rav Israeli told me, says Rav Aviner, if I will follow your opinion, which is the Rambam opinion, we are all sinners. Everyone, every Jew is a sinner. Why? Because we have Arab members of the Knesset. He says, it's impossible. Why is that impossible? Now take a look. And this is an unbelievable exercise here of how hashkafa influence halacha. Lamadeti, says Rav Aviner, from this conversation with Rav Israeli, שהאמונה בהשגחה האלוקית על המדינה מחייבת את העוסק בסוגיות של תורה ומדינה, לרדת שעומקה של ההלכה כדי לבחון היטב אם קיימות הגדרות הלכתיות המאפשרות לגשר בין התורה למדינה. I will translate in a minute. הגר"ש ישראלי דרש ללמד זכות על המדינה, גם פרשנות זו לעמדתו של הרב ישראלי מדגישה את אופייה הפולגטי של פסיקתו ברמה ההלכתית ואת רצונו לחפש את הדרך למתן תוקף הלכתי למדינת ישראל הדמוקרטית. חס לנו לנגח את המדינה בשם התורה, אדרבה עלינו לחזקה ולשמחה, לעודדה ולכוונה, כי בו במידה שנתקרב אם כפי התורה אל המדינה, תתקרב גם המדינה אל התורה. That's where it ends, that's where it starts. And I see you are looking at me for translation. I will. Rabbi Israeli says like that, if we are going to follow the Torah and the Halakha to the last little letter, we are going to distance the Medina from the Torah. We need to do whatever we can to bring the Torah closer to the Medina, and the Medina will get closer to the Torah. So if you want now to go to the Knesset, Rav Aviner, and to give a speech and to say, all of you, 110 of you, okay, 100 of you, are all sinners, and every Jew is a sinner, and the state is a Medina bechet, you sound like what? Exactly. We Haredim look, some of them look at the Medina as Maaseh Satan. If you want to tell me that the Medina caused everyone to sin, you are making a tremendous mistake in terms of Hashkafa on Medinat Israel. Medinat Israel, according to Rav Israeli, Rav Tzvi Yehuda, is Kiseh Hashem Ba'olam. It's Hashem's throne in this universe. So you want to tell me that by establishing Hashem's throne, we're causing everyone to commit a sin? This is crazy. That's what Rav Israeli says to Rav Aviner. Out. Rav Aviner has a totally different perspective. He says, Ma pito? We, Baruch Hashem, founded God's chair. By doing what we are going to do, we have the numbers now. Most people believe that that's in the 80s. Take 2023, the demographic changed, not only in terms of numbers, but also in terms of what? Of Hashkafa. I would say that most of the people are centered to the right. That's it. And I'm not saying that all of them agree with the judicial reform, all of them agree that Netanyahu needs to be exonerated, that Deri needs to be a... I'm talking about Hashkafa politit. Most of Israel now is centered to the right. Says Rav Aviner, if we are centered to the right, we establish Kiseh Malchut Hashem Ba'olam. And therefore, we can now implement more and more of what the Rambam envisioned for a halachic state. Modern state, democracy, nice. But that's not Torah. Zehu. Here, we went back to my introduction to the shiur. Here is the cause. Here is the root. How do you view the reality that you live in? And, everyone likes to live in his own little bubble dream cocoon and interpret everything else via his own eyes, which are the only eyes, obviously. Because as humble as I would like to be, I'm right and you're all not right. Right? Yes?
How do you understand Beit
Beit HaMikdash is very simple. You basically build a Beit HaMikdash. Goyim can bring Nedarim and Nedavot. That's what the Gemara says. They can come and daven. I don't have any problem. There are limits of where they can go in and out. This is not a problem whatsoever. That has nothing to do with the democratic state of Israel. I don't have any problem that any other non-Jew can enter the Beit HaMikdash to wherever they can enter. Also, an Israeli cannot enter the Beit HaMikdash wherever he wants and whenever he wants. So that's another problem. The problem is, how can you have a democratic state if you have a halachic state? And by the way, we need to understand, it's not going to go hand in hand all the time. There is a limit of how much you can say in halacha and keep the democracy. Okay, so the idea is, and I will take the two questions, is according to, and we didn't even read Rav Aviner yet, just his conversation with Rav Israeli clarified. If you want Medinat Israel to be closer to Torah and to keep its democratic identity, you will find in halacha all sorts of manipulations in order to do what? To allow it. if you don't think that we need to apologize anymore, and you don't think that we don't have the power, and if you don't think that we cannot make decisions based on halacha, so if you think that all of that, you will change the perception over halacha. Yes, Charlie.
So that we have a concept of Naval B'Reshut HaTorah. So that concept can be applied here in a way, by some at least, to say that if we're so focused on absolute particulars, we have lost the forest for the trees. We have, in fact, made a transgression because of our fidelity to every detail against all realities in the world that we know. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it doesn't. And they tell you, try it. You never tried it before. One second. So,
But the fallacy is that these same guys run to the US and say, protect us at the UN with a veto. So we don't have the power. That's the issue.
the thing is, and I will just say one thing.
It's generational.
It's generational. It's the galuti mentality that is fading away from the younger generation. The younger generation, right? And some of it, it's not knowing history and thinking that even if you have power, you cannot be levadad. You can't be levad. And by the way, this is a very interesting. It's Rav Zaks, Zichrono Livracha, in one of his essays, talks about Rav Soloveitchik always talked about the loneliness of the halachic man, the loneliness of the Jewish nation. And basically, Rav Soloveitchik saw in this loneliness not a punishment, but rather what? A path for life. That's what we should be. Rav Zak says exactly the opposite. He says we can't. When we talk about economy, for example, it's a global economy. If we talk even about intelligence, the CIA and the Mossad and the KG, whatever, they all need to what? To share information in order to protect each one of us. You can't just do it by yourself. It was good when we were, a little nation, and the only business that you do, your economy based on what? I'm giving you potatoes, you're giving me tomatoes. Okay, so give it to a Jew, sell it to a Jew, and not to a non-Jew. But today, what are we going to do with all the technology, okay, that we sell? Okay, this is definitely the engine of the Israeli economy. So what? We're going to say, okay, we're not going to sell any technology to anyone, only to ourselves. So what are we doing with it? So there is also sometimes of not really knowing how to assess the reality and what will be the future consequences of them. Yes, Phil.
I will say some heresy. Doesn't this all show the problem of halacha? Because a rabbi today who has common sense and knows certain things can happen cannot say it unless he finds a posuk which is totally irrelevant to the actuality of the situation to justify it.
I think it's not about the problem of halacha. I think it's the beauty of halacha, but does not show exactly the beauty of the poskim.
Yes. No,
yeah. You need to, there is and I'm saying it's a posek, okay, in my own little territory. The thing is, the halacha is beautiful. The problems.
What is the halacha?
Oh, okay. So as we see, and again, I'm not going there because I told you this is going to be a different shiur.
That is the essence of the matter. If the halacha.
No, this is the essence of another matter, not of this matter.
Because we have intelligent rabbis over a period of time, and they know what has to be done, but they can't do it unless they bring a pasuk.
Look, I mean, to bring a pasuk or to bring a hochacha, that's what you should do. I mean, I expect everyone that comes up with the law to substantiate it and not to say, I feel like, I think like, I think like. I don't buy those things.
You have halachas in the Torah about space?
No, I have fundamentals. I have fundamentals that I can.
Started off with the feeling of the Torah, the essence of the Torah, the morality of the Torah. When you get down to the particulars, I don't see anything about driving a car on Shabbos. I read about chariots up in heaven and so on. The point of the matter is, everybody tries to protect themselves with a pasuk. But first they start off and they realize we have to get this done. How do we get it done? We got to find the posik to back it up. This is a destruction of halacha. I believe the halacha is wonderful if you really look at halacha rather than legal pickings of matters.
So Phil, again, this is, I'm not going to go there just because this is not the topic of the shiur. I will just say one thing. If anyone will tell you that halacha is being done only in a conditions of a lab, okay, with no any other influences and no influences of hashkafa, society, culture, education, people that you hang out with, and all of that, I think he's lying to you. He's totally lying to you. This is not. Every posek made a psak based on needs, his assessment of reality, his knowledge that might be limited to some extent, sometimes of influence of other poskim or status or whatever it is, and that's what created halacha ledorot. That's what kept us here. I will never dismiss halacha. We are here because of that, and we are here with some kind of issues. Why? Because until, let's say, 100 years from now, 100 years ago, halacha and technology and modernity basically almost always went hand in hand, because technology and modernity didn't progress so fast. In today's world, we cannot, and I'm telling you as a posek, we cannot keep up with the technological advances, with the political advances, and with the new phenomena that come into our society. We just cannot catch up. If I was asked 4 months ago, what do I think about the non-meat thing, the meatless meat, whatever it's called, okay, I will give you an answer. Do you know that in 3 weeks, they changed the process? 3 weeks. It took me 3 months to understand what they are doing, okay, and to come up with a psak. In 3 weeks, the process changed. And now I need to go back and to understand the process and then to understand the consequences. And now I can guarantee you that in 2 weeks, they will change the process again because they want to make it more efficient and cheaper. That's it. That's their goal. It's not, it's Rabbi Finkelstein or Rabbi whatever, okay, is going to give his psak now. And what they do with genetics, what, do they wait for us to give our suggestions to them in order to keep it moral and ethical? No, mapitom, they move on. With AI, so all those things that we have, we cannot catch up with them. That's a problem. So if, for example, we're talking, we are approaching Pesach. Okay, there's a big, I don't know. Whoever is it is, please mute. I think it's mute all. Okay, so I know what I did, but I muted all. So basically, we're approaching Pesach. So if 200 years ago there was the machine matzah, big debate, but this machine matzah didn't progress. Okay, there's no another AI matzah or 3D matzah. Okay, so it became between one machine to another machine. That was basically the evolution in technology in 200 years ago. Okay, they created a train, then they created a better train, a more comfortable train, a more a faster train, but it's a train. Nothing changed. So the idea is, okay, the big debate between the Achronim, they had something to talk about. Is the matzah machine is good? Can you use it for Leil HaSeder or not? Is that better than hand matzah because there is no concern of Hamed? No, Baruch Hashem, but it's the same technology. What did they had to deal with what we call what do you call it? Gnevat dat by internet. You're stealing knowledge on the internet. All what do you call it? Intellectual property. Yeah, what is intellectual property? They had print. Okay, so you print and you quote, and that's it. So what I'm saying is, we don't have a problem with halacha. I do believe that halacha has fundamentals, solutions for most of the problems.
Okay.
And there is a debate. What is included in halacha? Is morality, ethics, other ramifications included in halacha or not? Or it's always there, so you can always use it. Or you say halacha is yikov adin tahar. And then you have another question of the poskim and their authority and their ability to create a psak, which includes all of that. So when I look now, you see the rabbis pre-state, post-state until 64, and now Rav Aviner, for example, and let's just read what he had to say. He says, "Ma'amad ha'Ishmaelim b'mdinat Yisrael lefi halacha," page 5. So the steps of the Ishmaelites in Israel according to halacha, as we said, not like Rav Israeli's title. And he says, "Abaya mitchaleket l'shtayim." He says we have a problem that is divided to two. Baya musarit v'baya demographic. We have an ethical issue problem and we have a demographic issue. He says basically to the ethical problem, הבעיה המוסרית פנים רבות. אי מתן זכויות מלאות לערביי יהודה שומרון ועזה, ודיכוי כל התארגנות ערבית לאומית עד כדי צמצום חופש הדיבור, בלשון אחרת, אי הענקת אזרחות ישראלית מלאה ושלילת הזכות להקמת תשתית ערבית לאומית, אינה רק בעיה משפטית גרידא, אלא בעיקר בעיה מוסרית. He says, look, I'm going to be very honest. I have an ethical issue. At the end, he doesn't care about it so much. He will tell you why. He says, I have an ethical issue. I have a moral issue. We have 1.2 million Arabs in Judah, Samaria, and Gaza. We're not going to give them rights. We're going to want to destroy any movement that basically claims any ownership on the land of Israel or doing any terrorism. We're going to want to cut them off, right? We're going to destroy them. We're going to want to take rights from them if we think it's needed. But there is an ethical issue with doing that. Therefore, says Rav Aviner, לאחר שבחנו מזוויות שונות את זכויות הפרט של הישמעאלים היושבים בארץ ישראל, זכות הישיבה בארץ, רכישת אדמות, זכות לקבלת סעד סוציאלי, שומה עלינו לבחון את הלאומיות האזרחיות של הישמעאלים בארץ. דיון זה מתבקש לאור העובדה שהערבים מהווים מיעוט אתני מגובש, אשר חלקו טוען לזהות לאומית מיוחדת, ומיעוטו אפילו עוין את השלטון של עם ישראל על הארץ. He basically says, I want to divide our treatment to minorities, especially the Arabs, the Muslims, says in two ways. One is the sociali, meaning all rights in terms of, can they get a treatment in a hospital? Sure. Should they get education? Sure. Should they get utilities? Yes. Meaning their needs must be taken care by us. However, because some of them hate us, some of them want to kill us. And some of them who don't want to kill us, they want to have their identity, their ethnical identity name, okay? Name and territory that we definitely cannot, says Rav Aviner, that we definitely cannot give that to them. Therefore, says Rav Aviner, קיבוץ לאומי נוחי שיושב בארצנו, אינו זכאי לזכויות אזרח מלאות. הגבלה זו נכנסת תחת הכותרת עבדות, כלומר כניעה. התורה פוסלת בכך את המיזוג של עם ישראל עם עם שכן או עם עם היושב על אדמת ארץ ישראל, שמעניק לשני העמים זכות בהנהגה המשותפת של המדינה. All this partnership that Rav Israeli and Rav Herzog spoke about, says Rav Aviner, bye-bye, no partnership. We don't need partners. We are the Ribbon, not Ribbon העולמים. We are the what? We are the majority, we govern. And therefore, we can decide that any other minority that sits with us will obey by our laws. They don't want to. There is a Ben Gurion airport. They can charter a flight and they can get out of here. Now, what about the minority Jews in diaspora? That's where religious Zionists became a little bit of a problem. That's their problem. They can pick up and come here. We need to understand something, and this is something that I see it because being so many years in America and talking here for, sometimes I don't know what to do, but basically religious Zionist movement, after the establishment of the State of Israel, and especially after the Six-Day War, they look at Jews in diaspora as what? The what? They are what? Failed Jews, second-class citizens. You have no, and by the way, that's also another political issue of when you have this cry out of the law of return from all the Jews in diaspora, some people here, leaders and rabbis says, Mihem. Who are they? Who cares? If they want to influence, let them come here. If you don't live here, you have zero right to determine what will be here. The what?
But send us money.
Some of them even say, don't send us money. We don't need you. We don't need you. We will sell another Mobileye. No. Don't dismiss it. This is becoming scary now. Because the more we become independent, we start forgetting what those Jews did to us. And I know firsthand stories. Some of those Jews who live there and make a decision not to make Aliyah for whatever reason, they helped the IDF in its inception. They smuggled weapons, they gave money, they smuggled people, they risked their lives. Yet they didn't serve in the IDF. Yes, their children didn't die in a war. But we can't forget it and dismiss it. But that's the problem of the lack of education of the newer generation. But by the way, have a tremendous disadvantages. This younger generation is fearless, is very courageous, but at the same time is not that educated to the history. So I'm not going to fix all those problems. I'm just saying that so you'll have a good day. The thing is what? Is that the idea is what? Is that Rav Aviner says, we govern here. We have the right. Therefore, we are going to take care of you socially. Meaning, not socially, sociologically, whatever. Meaning, we'll give you medical treatment, we will give you education, infrastructure, all of it. But when it comes to what? To appointing you, for example, for a Knesset member, or giving you the right to vote and to influence what's going on here, this ain't partnership. We are the boss. And therefore, says Rav Aviner, ההגבלות באות להבטיח שהשלטון יהיה מסור אך ורק ביד עם ישראל. קיבוץ אתני נוסף השוכן בארץ, אומנם זכאי לכל עזרה סוציאלית, אבל אינו זכאי ורשאי להחזיק בהגה השלטון. They should not have anything to do with decisions for the state of Israel. Now, leave that. There is another problem. Leave South Africa. If you remember, one of the major issues with Rabin Zichrono Livracha, when he made the decision of Oslo, was that he passed it through the Knesset, but his decision was supported by, he didn't have a majority without the Arabs.
Well, that's because they threw out their.
Yeah, but leave the political condition. But at the end of the day, the decision to have an Oslo Accord was only passed in the Knesset because of the Arab members. Rav Aviner will tell you, I told you, they should not have any right to vote regarding what? The fate and the faith of this country. Now, again, I'm not interested in your political views, and you are not interested in mine. Maybe you're not, you are, but I'm not going to share. The thing is that we, and that's what I wanted to do with this show, is to basically antagonize all of you. Because I brought different opinions that some of them we can relate to, and some of them we can say, oh my gosh, is this halacha? Is this halacha? It's complicated. It's complicated. And it's perplexing. And Rav Aviner basically says, when you look at his psak from a Jewish Israeli perspective, you say, if you look at it from an international perspective, or for more, I don't want to say more intellectual because it's not fair to say that. Brother. But I don't want to say brother because then you say that he is a narrow-minded. I don't want to say from a different perspective. You can say, does he live in La La Land? Does he think we are in a La La Land, in a lonely island that we can do whatever we want? Do you think that Medinat Israel is on the moon? What about all the other people? What about all the other Jews in diaspora? But he has an answer for that. Pick up and leave, come here. So, in conclusion, yes.
Just to clarify, because at the beginning he's talking about Arvei Yehuda v'Shomron, the Gaza. So, is he talking with this perspective only about Yehuda, Shomron, Gaza, or is he also talking about Nazareth? Is he also talking about all the other Arab villages that are citizens of the state of Israel?
Talking only about, for now, in the 70s, talking only about Yehuda, Arvei, Shomron, Gaza.
Okay.
However, if you follow the logic, if you follow the logic, even though he does not say it clearly, if you follow the logic, every minority and a master minority everywhere in Israel that consider themselves as a separate, identical ethnic identity and claim to do things against Am Yisrael should not have any right to vote or any part in government. That's basically.
Oh, you're saying that's the logical.
That's a logical. Yeah, he addressed
what he said.
He addressed now the Yehuda v'Shomron Gaza because that was ala perek. But now things can change. Now, by the way, we don't need to go far. We will talk next week will be the last show. Okay, I will just tell you one thing and then I'm concluding because I have just another meeting. That was when I was in Memphis. So I don't know exactly when it was, but it was before 2016. Chief Rabbi of Tzfat, Rav Eliyahu, said that we shouldn't rent apartments in Tzfat to Arabs. Now, some people say it's not apartments, but rather just apartments that are close to the university. I don't know. I was not here, and I didn't really follow it through. Rav Lichtenstein wrote a letter to him and obviously put it in the newspaper. And you will see there also, and this is already 2000, okay, 2000 something, you will see again and again the same machloket regarding your hashkafa and the consequences of what you say. So, for example, he said, don't rent apartments to them. Now, who is to them? Not to Arabs from Judah and Samaria, from Tzfat. So, we definitely see that the halacha is complicated, but also the reality is complicated. The reality also changes from time to time. And that definitely affects the halacha. So what we'll do next week, B'ezrat Hashem, we will see a little bit from, we'll see one more thing from Rav Tzvi Yehuda that also gave, I would say, inspiration or aspiration to the religious Zionist movement. And then we will see some of the comments of Rabbi Lichtenstein and Rav and Rav Amital regarding those issues. So I think it will be pretty interesting next week as well. Thank you, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Oh, you need to be in the States next week? Zoom. No.
On a certain level, I think you're.
Thank you so much.
Picking up on some of the issues that you don't want to go into. By the way, I had a started my first